Okay, everybody, welcome back to the second part of our evening. I'd like to welcome this year's Bellevue City Council candidates to tonight's Bellevue Candidate Forum. For 2014, there are two wards that will be represented on the ballot. Ward 2 and Ward 4 each will elect one candidate. There are 4 candidates running, 2 for each ward, and we'll now meet them and have some questions to ask them. As you can see, we have 3 of them here this evening. Candidate John Hanson is unable to attend due to a prior commitment. Each candidate will introduce themselves and give a 3-minute opening, and an order is based upon a prior drawing. And then we'll follow by questions. Each candidate will answer each question in 2-minute rotation, so it's time to meet the candidates. Our opening statements will start with Sharon Hanson. So Sharon, if you'd like to start off.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, first of all, for hosting this event, and Bellevue University and everyone who has come out. I'd also like to thank all of the people who have put their name in the hat to run for office, because it's a lot of work and it certainly says something about yourself and being committed to the process. My name is Sharon Hanson. I'm running for City Council in the City of Bellevue for Ward 4. I have been in Nebraska my whole life. I grew up in South Omaha. I've lived in Bellevue for approximately 30 years. And for 25 years, I've already served the Bellevue City on the Board of Adjustment, where I was there for about 12 years. And then I served on the Planning Commission for 13 years. So I've developed some skills in working with development and planning type applications. I'm a late bloomer. After working 25 years in information technology in the telecommunications field, I left that and decided to go back to school. So at the young age of 51, I went back to law school and became an attorney, and I am now a practicing attorney. And I think the skills and the classes that I experience in my job as an attorney would also help me serve the citizens of Bellevue on the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And now Michael Lemieux, if I got that, Lemieux. Michael.
As you said, my name is Michael Lemieux. I'm a 10-year resident of Bellevue. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this, for Bellevue University for this venue, and for each of you for attending. Thank you. A little bit about myself. Retired military. I couldn't get any of them right, so I went 4 years Army, 6 years Navy, and 10 years National Guard, and worked the last 20 years doing Special Forces intelligence, and then now I am the Army Strategic Command liaison to STRATCOM for intelligence. I also have a business downtown, Ravenhead Arms, that might tell you where I stand on the Second Amendment. I have been open there since November. It's our first year in business, and already we're in the black, so it's working well. I'm married, 3 children, 5 grandchildren. Obviously live in Ward 2. We have my degree is in computer science. I've worked for about 10 years in between military experience to raise kids. My wife, when I was in the Navy and we had 2 small children, and the Navy said, well, it's time for you to re-enlist and go out to sea, and you'll be gone 10 months out of the year. And the wife looked at me and said, oh, no, you're not. So I got out, got my degree, was a programmer for 15 years, and decided in the last part of that I didn't want to get rid of that 10 years military, so I joined Utah Army Guard, and worked as a Special Forces intelligence analyst, where I deployed to multiple countries, and was medically retired about 5 years ago due to injuries sustained in Afghanistan, and quite grateful though that my job and everything brought us here, because we came to Nebraska instead of Colorado, where I'd originally wanted to go, but they kept offering me more money to come here. Once we got here, we decided we loved Bellevue, and we decided to make this our home and our final place to live, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. And now Jim Modry.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to thank the Chamber as well for hosting this event and for inviting all of us as participants. Also want to thank Bellevue University for the gracious use of their facilities. And then finally, thank all of you for coming and listening to us. My name is Jim Modry. I'm a candidate for Bellevue City Council, Ward 4. Bellevue needs a city councilman who will stand on principle and work hard to increase transparency and accountability, cut costs and spending, burdensome regulations and taxes, grow our city, keep us out of debt, and represent the best interests of you, the citizens. I grew up on a small farm and quickly learned the values of hard work, accountability, and fiscal responsibility when my father died when I was 13 years old, leaving my older brother and I to help our mother run the farm. I learned the value of a dollar and gained really an invaluable education doing that. These values have served me well throughout my life, and I think I can use them to serve you well on the City Council. I'm a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and had a career in the Air Force. The Air Force brought our family to Bellevue in December of 1989, where I retired from the Air Force in 1993. About half of my career was as a B-52 pilot, and the other half as a weapons systems acquisition professional. It's a fancy-sounding word term, I know. And I currently serve as a director for a small software engineering and consulting company here in Bellevue. I've earned professional certifications in project management, test and evaluation management, quality management, and process improvement. So I know how to find problems or inefficiencies and then plan and work with others to implement solutions. I describe myself as a Christian constitutional conservative. I'm unabashedly pro-life and pro-Second Amendment. I believe in constitutional limited government, personal responsibility, traditional family values, and faith in God. When I entered the Air Force, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. That oath does not have an expiration date. So I consider that to be a lifetime sacred obligation. So these are the values that establish my worldview and the values that will guide my decisions that I will make for you on your behalf as a member of the Bellevue City Council. Bellevue is a great place to work and to live, and I want to make sure it stays that way and becomes even more beautiful and vibrant for our children and grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right, shall we begin?
Sure.
Well, the first question is going to go to Michael, and then we'll follow with Jim and then Sharon. So the first question we come out with are, what are your plans after the election to create a working relationship with other council members and the mayor to create a smooth transition as a new council person? So, Michael.
Thank you. Well, and I think one of the benefits I've had from years of military service and from the opportunity that I had to travel around the world in various capacities is working well with others. We never stayed very long in one spot. In all of my my father was military, I was military, we moved around. When you move to a new area, you have to make new friends. One of the things that is vital in any type of situation like this is the ability to listen, to hear what they are saying, and not be trying to think of what your position is or what you want to do. I have learned that through many years of working in different teams in the military and outside the military. As a programmer, I had to listen to customers, listen to find out what was needed by them, not just what I wanted to do for them. So if I've given the opportunity, I would bring that to the council, work with the council, listen to what they want to do, and define a methodology that we could then work together with in moving forward to resolve the issues that we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Jim?
Yes. working for a smooth transition, some of the first things I would do is certainly meet with Steve Knudsen, the outgoing Ward 4 council member, to get his perspective, his views, his opinions on where things stand and what's happening with the council. I have a good idea of what confronts the council, what issues are in place right now, by attending council meetings when I'm in town and able to do so. Along with Mike, I also have experience from the military. We receive a lot of training in the military on active listening, on being members of teams, knowing how to listen to the other view, the other perspective, take in all of those, you know, and then make a good decision based upon all of that. So I'll bring that perspective. I've held a number of leadership positions in my church, as I know Mike has as well. And in each of those, it takes listening and working and transitioning to make things happen. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Sharon?
Yes. Well, I feel fortunate that I've already met the city council members. I was awarded a Jewel of Bellevue Award a couple of years ago for my services to the city of Bellevue. And working, so I obviously would meet with all of them. We all have to work together. And I think just like, you know, Rita Sanders had said, you know, you need to work together to get things done, and you need to be a cheerleader for each other and for the city, and I think that's what I would need to do. I worked in corporate America for 25 years. As the two candidates here have said, they've done active listening training in the military. Well, the corporate America has active listening as well. And I supervised, I was a supervisor, I was a programmer, and then I was a supervisor of information technology people. I worked with staffs as large as 44 people in 3 different cities and had to deal with them on the phone or in person all the time, knowing what they needed to do, helping them to achieve their goals, which is what needs to happen in the city. As an attorney, I deal with clients all the time. I have to find out what their needs are so that I'm able to help them get to the point where they need to be. So I would be working not only with the city council, but also learning the department heads and getting to know them and knowing what their issues are as well, so that we can achieve the greatness that we should be at. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. We'll move to our second question. Jim, we're going to start with you. As a citizen of Bellevue, how do you think Bellevue is perceived by its surrounding neighbors, and is there anything you plan to do to change or improve that perception?
Okay. Well, I've talked with a lot of people from surrounding areas as well as people within Bellevue. And I think in general, people have a positive impression of Bellevue. As Mayor Sanders said in the first part of this session tonight, Bellevue is a great place to live. It's a friendly community, it's a safe community, and I think people recognize that. From talking with people outside of Bellevue, they look up to our public safety departments, our police department and our fire coverage. So that's a very positive attitude that people have of Bellevue. Some things I want to try and do to keep that image up is to continue to focus on those areas. Public safety, an area that does not have maybe as positive a view is our economic development. And I know the city is actively working that and pursuing it now. I also want to make sure that we continue in that area. We need to get more business within Bellevue. We need to revitalize Bellevue, Old Town, Fort Crook Road, the new Highway 34 corridor. So I want to take an active role in that. I think we need to make Bellevue a more inviting place for business.
Thanks, Jim. Sharon?
Yes, thank you. Well, I agree with Mr. Modry on what he has said. I think we do need a lot of economic development in the areas that he discussed. And I think as far as the views of our neighboring communities to us, I have met people in other communities. I know that they think we need to have more economic development, but they also think Bellevue is a wonderful place to be too. The natural resources that we have sure would make other communities envious of us. We have the river, we have the forest, we have certainly an interstate with several exit entrance ramps, and now we're going to have the bridge to the south. And so, you know, we have a close proximity to downtown Omaha. And so I think that there is a favorable view. When I was working in corporate America, there were transfers here, and people would look to Bellevue as a place to live and raise their families and send their children to school because they saw it as a good area to be in. So I would like to, continue along those routes and certainly work on economic development as being the #1 priority. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Mike?
Thank you. And I would agree with both the other candidates. Bellevue has a very positive image in the areas around. The people that I have talked to always think of Bellevue as a very nice city, clean, bedroom community type thing, place where that they felt safe. There was as other candidates have alluded to with public safety, et cetera, that Bellevue is the jewel in the area. But at the same time, they also recognize and they see all the development that's going on in the cities around Bellevue. And I have literally been asked, why isn't Bellevue doing that? Why aren't they building in Bellevue? And that's one of the things that both the other candidates have also alluded to is we have an opportunity now with the number of corridors that are coming in. Access to the city is going to be there. We need to take advantage of that opportunity. And doing things to entice businesses to come in, as the other cities are, we also need to do that. On the negative, I think a lot of, Jim had relayed to this as well, is there are areas of the city that do need revitalization, Old Town in particular. Even though it's such a drawdown, there's a lot of quaintness, as they did in Omaha with Old Town up there. There's a lot of things that we can do to open that up to the surrounding area and have it a quaint spot that people would draw people to go down there. And I think there's anything that we can do to help revitalize and to bring business in will do nothing but increase people's opinion of Bellevue and increase the prosperity of Bellevue for our family and for our posterity.
Thanks, Mike. Sharon, we're going to start with the next question, and as I'm looking at this, it looks like a loaded question, and it won't hurt my feelings either way you answer it, but
Okay.
and it's a lengthy one, so bear with me.
All right.
Every city would like to see more businesses locate within its boundaries because new business means new jobs and new sources of tax revenues. There are often questions on who is responsible for bringing economic development to Bellevue, with some saying it's the city's job and others saying it's the Bellevue Chamber's job. Who do you think is responsible to take the lead, and what would you do to ensure that all parties are working together to bring in new business to Bellevue?
Okay. First of all, the more people we have working for us, the better we are. So I'm not going to turn down anybody's help in getting economic development here. I think both have some expertise that they can share and leverage to get economic development here, that's for sure. I think that working also with the communities that we have to the west of us in the county. After all, we're the largest city and the fastest growing county. I think we can share some of our victories and, because you can't cite a business everywhere, and so I think we can share in the development and share in the rewards and make that pie bigger for all of us to share. So that's my answer.
Thanks, Sharon. Mike?
Thank you. Good question. And as with most things, I don't think there's a black and white. I think there is a shared interest between the Commerce and between city. Commerce obviously has an interest in it because they need to grow their base as well. By representation and by their access and bringing in more business, they grow, they become better, and it benefits the community. At the same time, the city is responsible to its citizens to ensure vibrancy and continued growth in the city and the ability for the city to not end up entirely like Old Town. So cities we've seen across the United States for one reason or another, and they dwindle up. That is, to me, a lot of times, the problem with the city. So it is the responsibility of those on the council, as well as the administrators of the city, to move the city in a direction that will ensure our continued growth and the continued prosperity of Bellevue. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Jim?
Yes, I agree with everything that Sharon and Michael have said thus far. The responsibility really is a shared responsibility, between the city council, the chamber, other organizations within the city, and even in consultation and coordination with surrounding cities, as Sharon said as well. In order to make that happen, we need to make Bellevue an even more inviting place. We need to provide incentives for business to come here. And then we need to have the ability for the city to be able to absorb those new employees, the new population that come within the city. So we have to take care of the needs of the citizens as well. So it's a big responsibility, and it has to be shared among all those organizations, really, to make it happen. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That wasn't that tough of a question, was it?
No.
Okay. Michael, this one will start with you, and we'll follow with Jim, then Sharon. If you were only able to accomplish one thing in your elected term, what would you want that to be and why?
Wow. Well, I would probably have 3 or 4 one things that I would like to. If it was one thing, and my passions run the gamut between, I'm also an author. I wrote a book on constitutional principles for the individual. I believe very strongly that the United States was founded on individual rights and the right of the citizen that has never been done in any other country in the history of the world. Save Wales. So there's a special place in my heart to ensuring that concept of the worth of the individual, property owner, that legacy continues on. If we take care of the individual, if we ensure his rights, his property, and his freedom is kept within the bounds of liberty, then we open up all the other doors. Secondarily, the next thing that I would say is it is even as important that we build the economic base of Bellevue to move it forward, because that too will enhance the individual freedom and liberties of its citizens. Thank you.
Well, Mike and I have a lot in common. We're both students of the Constitution. We've taught a Constitution class together in the past as well. And I just, on Tuesday, attended some training on the Constitution. So I, as well, have a passion for individual freedom, individual liberties. I'm wearing my Liberty First pin that I earned from that training tonight. It's important that we make sure that our city government does not trample upon the individual liberties of our citizens. In fact, the purpose of the government, any level of government, is to protect and to secure those rights and liberties that we have. So if there's one thing that I could do, it would be to keep that in mind as the council goes about its business, as we make decisions, as we look at new ordinances, new regulations, new codes that go into place. That's extremely important, and it really drives everything else that occurs. And of course, we've been talking about economic development tonight. That's certainly an area, if I can have any impact there and help in any way to bring new business within our city, or to help revitalize businesses in areas of our city, that would certainly be another one of my priorities. Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is kind of an easy question for me. The one thing that I would like to be remembered for in my term as a city council person is for economic development. Because economic development is going to increase the tax base, which is going to bring money into the city, which means we can provide services for the citizens. And these are the things that people talk to me about as I go out and campaign. They want to know about economic development in areas of the city. They want to know about services. They want to know about our pools. And so this would address so many of those issues. And if we can do it in a logical, without giving away the farm way of doing it, and I think we have, I think we have the proper personnel on board to achieve this goal, then that's what I want to be remembered for, is economic development. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're about a fourth of the way through, so only like another 20 questions, 15 questions. So. Our next question, Jim, will start with you and work our way from Sharon to Michael. We heard the mayoral candidates' opinions on Proposition 1. Now we'd like to know if you support Proposition 1 and the development of LB 840 for the Highway 34 corridor. And say yes or no, and why.
Okay.
Jim.
A yes or no, huh?
Kind of like you treat your kids, yes or no?
Yes. In general, I do not like granting additional authority and power to a governmental unit. But in this case, I think we need to grant that authority to the Bellevue City Council. We are in dire need of economic development. We need to have some additional means and ways to bring business, to attract business and industry to that new Highway 34 corridor. And I think this would be one way for us to be able to do that. In saying that, I recognize that we're going to have to be awful careful as a city council, weigh our decisions well in spending that money and setting aside that kind of money each year, so that we do it wisely and don't incur, the kind of financial picture we had just a couple years ago. So yes, I would be in favor of it, but I would also do that cautiously and make sure that the council is responsible in the decisions it makes using that new authority. Sure.
Well, if anyone has already read the Bellevue Leader this week, they already know my answer to this, and this is a resounding yes. For too long, we've had only tax increment financing available to bring economic development into town, and I think we need to have another arrow in our quiver and have the ability to be flexible and work with businesses. I know sometimes when I was on the Planning Commission, when we were talking about having design standards, businesses would come and they would do the minimum that they needed to do. And when we told them that, well, we wanted your building to look a little bit better, they said, hey, that's fine, just tell us what you want. And I think in some ways we have to set expectations for economic development such that, we're going to have these tools available, but just because we have them, we're not going to, once again, give away the farm. We're going to do it in a sensible, responsible, logical way so that we can bring economic development to the city. Thank you.
And I too would have to say a qualified yes, in that I do believe that it is needed, as the other candidates have said, as one of the things that we have in our economic development portfolio. By being able to offer and provide incentives for businesses to come. If we look at all the other cities around us that have been growing with businesses, they have had these things to offer. I was asked in an interview prior to coming here that is that really how cities should be run? That businesses should be basically coaxed, by offering the best pearl to the company to get them to come to your city. And I said, well, in a perfect situation, absolutely not. But we live in the real world. And the real world says that, and as a business, you're going to look at your options. Your options are, do I go here or here? If I go here, they are offering to do these things. If I go here, I get half of that. It is only understandable they're going to choose what is best for the company. We have to make that enticement as well. But at the same time, those of us within the city council and within city government need to understand it is not the power that we're given, it is a stewardship. And that's an important distinction. The stewardship means that we are responsible and accountable to you. And with that stewardship, we have to make the decisions that are correct as much as humanly possible. We all make mistakes, but as much as humanly possible, we need to be accountable to you in the stewardship of the power that we're given to act on your behalf in growing Bellevue. I think this would be a great opportunity to give us the leverage that we would need to work with companies to get them to here and build our economic base. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a unanimous 3, so we can just end the evening right here, right? Our next question, Sharon, we'll start with you. And we're in the home stretch here, so we really don't have 15 more.
I figured that.
Job creation plans have been a common claim, so specifically, what do you intend to do to impact the business environment within our community to help stimulate the growth?
Well, I think if I'm interpreting this question correctly, you know, we need to, in order to have jobs, you have to have businesses. In order to have businesses, you have to have economic development. And so, you know, we want people to work here, we want people to shop here, we want people to live here, we want people to visit here, and we want to hire people to do all those things to make that happen. So once again, job creation is going to heavily depend on how successful we are at getting economic development to the city. Thank you.
And I would agree with Ms. Hanson that obviously jobs equate to economic development. At the same time, jobs also equate to individuals wanting to be here. So we need to ensure that Bellevue is the place where people want to be, and that there is available housing and infrastructure here to support that. So that's another aspect that we need to do, but also growth of business. Jobs aren't a stagnant number. It's not, you know, a company moves in and hires 10 people. Hopefully, we want those businesses to grow. The infrastructure has to be there to provide for the ability for them, that business, to grow, and thereby adding more jobs and bringing more people into our community, and building the economic base that we have. Thanks.
I would agree with both of the other candidates. We absolutely need to create the economic development to get jobs flowing. We need to make Bellevue a more inviting city, to have the infrastructure in place, to have the housing, the recreation, the parks, all those things that go along with companies wanting to move here and move their people here. And then we need to provide the economic environment to allow those businesses to grow. Need to look at regulatory restrictions on businesses. Need to look at getting our taxes down. And the job creation and economic development will all help with that, and so it'll be kind of a compounding effect as that starts to happen, and that'll bring more business and more job creation into Bellevue.
Thanks, Jim. All right, candidates, now is the time for your 2-minute closing. So per the draw earlier this evening, we're going to start with Michael, then we'll follow with Jim, and then we'll wrap up the evening with Sharon. So,
Again, I think it almost seems like there's been a consensus here, but there really hasn't been. We really haven't talked about this prior amongst each other. But I think it underscores the importance of business development in Bellevue. When you have such divergent points of view come together and say, this is what we need, I think it speaks volumes. I, as a candidate, have always expressed my faith, my belief in citizen-run government, and as I have said, the stewardship that goes with it. Too many times we find people vying for positions in government. It was actually one of the last things I wanted to do. I do it out of sense of pride and my sense of duty to give back to the community that I have grown to care about so much. If given the opportunity, I will work to the best of my ability to provide that guidance, direction on behalf of those that I represent in ensuring Bellevue continues to move forward and be the great place that we all know it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here tonight to participate in this forum, and thank all of you for taking the time to listen to our views and our perspectives, our positions. You've had the opportunity to learn a little bit more about each of us, our views, our positions, similarities, differences, although there weren't a lot of differences. We agree on most everything. Economic development is key for the city to help move us forward, to help us to reduce burdensome taxes on our taxpayers by providing that added revenue. If elected, I pledge to work and work hard to try and do that, reduce burdensome permits, licenses, codes, regulations, to cut our spending and reduce costs, keep us out of debt, and foster that economic development. Mike talked of stewardship. It's absolutely true. I pledge to be a good steward of your hard-earned tax dollars, and remember that you are my boss and I am your servant. And that's true. In this campaign, I've been honored to have been endorsed by Nebraskans United for Life, Republican Liberty Caucus, a number of state senators, Tommy Garrett, Bill Kipner, Jim Smith, Dave Bloomfield, Charlie Jansen, and a couple of former city councilmen, Dave Sanborn and Bruce Sorensen. If you believe in me and share in the values I've presented tonight, just as those organizations and individuals who have endorsed me do, I respectfully ask for you to vote for me, pray for me, and then hold me accountable. Former Justice of the Supreme Court, Louis Brandeis, said that the most important political office is that of the private citizen. I would add even more so, an informed private citizen. So to learn more, please visit my website, jimmodry.com, as well as voterinformation.org to see more on the positions of each of us. With your help, together we can make Bellevue an even more beautiful and vibrant city. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you for this opportunity to get information out and for you to get more informed about what's going on with the campaign this year. As I stated at the beginning, I'm a lifelong Nebraskan and have lived in Bellevue for 30 years, and I've already served the community for 25 years by being on an appointed board. That experience has given me a lot of skills that I can bring serving as a city council member, and I can hit the ground running by being able to do that. The law degree also helps me. I can read contracts, help with negotiations, and I think that gives me an edge to help the city too. Over the years, various people have asked me to run for city council, and I declined because the timing wasn't right, or I didn't feel that the city council and the mayor at the time would be the right people to work with. And I feel differently this time. I feel that we have a city council that genuinely is interested in taking the city forward. We have a mayor who feels the same way, and I think we have the dynamics involved so that we can all come together and get the economic development so that we can truly move this city from a good city to a great city. So with that in mind, I would ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank each of you for participating tonight and for running for what we'd consider a very important office in Bellevue. And I would say that not only just running for the office takes an extreme sacrifice from family, friends, and your day jobs, but also if elected, more sacrifice to follow. So thank you for not only running for this, but for your potential service to our community.
Thank you.
The Greater Bellevue Area Chamber of Commerce knows the importance of each of these candidates and the offices they are seeking. We hope that tonight has been informative And we take this role very seriously as an advocate for the community and need your help to ensure Bellevue is a competitive place to run a business and a great place to live and work and play. And I'm going to give the Bellevue Leader a little bit of a plug here too, that the candidates each had in Tuesday, Wednesday's paper. We had a full page spread in there that also had a little bit of background on each of our candidates. It's a good article for people that if you're not here tonight and you see this on TV, it's another thing to follow through. And then our mayoral candidates, I believe, will be in next week's paper, same format. So just actively ask people to engage, check in, get to know your candidates, and get out and vote on November 4th. So again, thank you guys for this evening.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.